Well, thank you all for being here. And as Senator Barrasso said, this is a good first step. I congratulate Speaker McCarthy, having served with him for many years over in the House side. He has, I think, a tremendous read on his conference, and he insisted that the president get to the negotiating table with him, as our leader did as well, to negotiate a package. Remember, Senator Schumer and President Biden said, we're not going to negotiate, it's not negotiable. And those words were hollow. So a negotiated package, you don't get everything that you want. We have some common sense. We have less spending in here, the IRS issues. But the issue that I am drawn to and that has great impacts, not just for me on my committee work, but also in my state, is the permitting reform and the MVP pipeline. So Senator Barrasso and I have been working on this through our two committees. We laid out 4 provisions of what permitting reform could have meaningful impacts. One is to have it be agnostic as to what type of project you have. If it's a renewable project, if it's a fossil fuel project, whatever it is, it has to be, the permitting has to be even and fair all across the board. And the provisions, while they don't go as far enough as certainly as we would go nearly as far enough, they are agnostic as to what type of projects you have going forward. We asked for some deadline relief, big deadline relief. I would have preferred to have a provision where if you pass your deadline as a regulator, then it's deemed permitted. Couldn't go that far, but we did have timelines. We have one federal decision in there they were able to get in there that they are using off of their Builder Act. And the last thing is NEPA reform. We haven't had NEPA reform since 1982. And so 3 of our 4 parameters were at least touched on in this bill. So that, I think, is significant, and that will give us a good jumping point to start off again in our bipartisan talks in committee on permitting reform. Lastly, the Mountain Valley Pipeline is exceedingly important to our region, the eastern seaboard of this country. It is 95% complete. I have had numerous conversations, as have many from our state and other states, with everybody saying how critically important the product of natural gas that is carried through this pipeline is to the energy security of this country. And so after many, many attempts in the court to shut the entire thing down, it's time to bring it to a close, and this agreement brings it to a close. The Corps of Engineers has to put the permit forward in 21 days. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the permitting, it has been permitted by the Forest Service. It has been permitted by the Fish and Wildlife, the Biden and Trump Fish and Wildlife and Forest Service. This is well on its way. So we are very pleased, I am very pleased, that the MVP pipeline, which I've worked hard with others and certainly in our state and everywhere else to make sure that it gets a fair hearing and it will be complete.